welcome to yet another episode of Backseat Designers. My name is Frederick Olsen, and I'm joined by my two friends whom I like to bitch about adventure games with, Trolls Plymouth,
Cunt Bubble,
and Gareth Millwood.
Hello.
And today, we're gonna talk about a very heated subject. We're gonna talk about shitty puzzles in otherwise good games.
I'm already warm under the collar.
Very much. Now, before we get going, we probably have to define what constitutes a shitty puzzle. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to the good doctor who knows his bit about shittiness. So Gareth, what makes a puzzle ostensibly shitty?
He basically spends his entire life looking at shittiness.
I spend my entire life looking at anti-vaxxers, so I am immune
They're
to,
pretty shitty.
to the bullshit.
They're pretty shitty. If we offend anyone by saying that, then good riddance.
Fuck off, people. Anyway.
Well, no, I'm sure that if you dilute this episode 100 times in water, then it will still retain the essence of the episode.
And also cause autism.
This episode will cause autism. I was thinking about this before. I was trying to think of what makes a bad puzzle, but I think there's different gradations of bad puzzles. I mean, there's puzzles that make absolutely no sense because they're just shoved in there with no relevance to the story whatsoever. There's puzzles that are bad because the answer to them is so contrived that you would never know. Nobody could really, given the hints that they've been given.
Yeah, guess what the designer is thinking, basically.
Yeah, exactly. They could never work out what the designer was thinking. There's some puzzles that are shitty on an individual basis because we as individuals just don't like that kind of puzzle.
And we as individuals are pretty shitty.
Well, that too. And there are puzzles which are bad because they just don't work in the context of the game. And I think there are different things. Now, I mean, I think one of the things that we were trying to be clear about when we were discussing sort of what the subjects for these episodes were, was that we didn't want to just not like a puzzle because we didn't like that element of the story, or we just simply didn't like that particular puzzle for whatever reason, that this had to be some kind of design flaw because it broke the flow of the game or broke the flow of the story, or really just kind of broke the fourth wall in a bad way because you're very aware you're playing a game right now.
Right. So even though we are very, we don't like the newspaper under the door to get the key puzzle or the sliding tile puzzle. These are not bad puzzles in and of themselves. They're just puzzles that we really, really don't like, and perhaps they're overused, and perhaps they just don't fit into the story. That doesn't make them a bad puzzle in and of themselves.
No, that's true.
So we are looking at puzzles that are really just shit by definition.
We're trying to get objectively shitty this week,
as opposed to every other week.
Yeah, well,
there's no subjective shit in this episode.
No, actually, there isn't. One more thing that we got, gentlemen, and I must admit I don't actually know whether he's going to talk about last week's subject, which was adaptations of other media into adventure game form. Or if he's going to talk about this week's subject, but we got a voicemail, yay! And it's from it's from
he might actually be talking about cunt bubbles for all we know.
Yeah, because we don't we like to get spontaneous, so we don't actually listen to stuff people send us. So if you have any farting noises, if you have any,
plug our ears when they're playing.
If you guys have any farting noises that you want out of the way, then Godspeed, and please send that shit to us. Now, the voicemail we got this week is from a friend of the show and a Patreon bagger, I believe, called Tomer Gable. I hope I'm getting the name right, but I'm probably not.
Or not. He's Israeli, and he's a very nice guy, and his name is Toma Gabel.
Toma Gabel, thank you.
I think. I don't speak Hebrew.
Well, let's roll the tape. Hava Nagila, bitches.
You have one new message. First new message.
And only.
Hello, all brave and powerful co-hosts. With regards to our last episode about adaptations, so one of the questions that you raised is what would you have wanted to see adapted into an adventure game. And one movie that comes to mind, and Fred will probably know this one because he loves obscure movies at least as much as I do, probably
Yay.
more, is a movie called Brick from 2005, starring what's his face? Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's really a terrific actor. I love him. So this movie is about is essentially a film noir style detective story about a high school
journalism.
with this kid bordering on autism, getting whose friend got basically murdered, and he gets involved in everything from drug dealing to snitching to whatever it is you can think of. I think beyond the fact that it's a really, really well-made movie, I think it would work great as an adventure game because fundamentally the whole movie is a detective story. Is like, here are pieces of the puzzle, figure out what happened, and then figure out what to do about it within, the realm, within the universe of the movie, whatever makes sense. So, in terms of storytelling, I think this would work really, really well. Beyond the art style of the movie, it has its own kind of distinctive modern film noirish look. The fact that it's a film noir movie kind of makes it easier to adapt. Well, maybe. I mean, I'm a backseat designer after a fashion myself, but it seems to me that it would make it easier to adapt to an adventure game because you can, you can pretty much chicken out in terms of how to, how to present the characters and how to kind of give a good idea of what the protagonist is feeling and thinking at any given time by simply having the protagonist narrate the story because it's film noir. So that seems to make the whole thing a little bit easier. Furthermore, the art style is very distinctive, and most importantly, perhaps, the movie, every character in the movie speaks in what is essentially a weird English lingo. Like they have their own slang. They have various odd ways of putting things together, putting sentences together that are, it's fully legible to anyone who understands reasonable English, and you get used to it pretty quickly, but it's pretty distinctive, and I think that would work very, very well in the context of an adventure game. So that's just one idea. I've been enjoying the show since day one, and I'm still really enjoying the show. I hope you have a great episode, and, trolls, keep your flesh noodle where it is. Come on, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.
My flesh noodle remains where it is.
That was pretty interesting. I must admit I haven't seen Brick, but now I want to. I think that sounds really interesting, and let's add some commentary before we move on to this week's subject. I like the idea that you can take this movie, which apparently has a very idiosyncratic style. Are any of you guys familiar with it?
No, can't say.
Not at all.
I've heard of the title, I think, but I do like that it has kind of an idiosyncratic dialogue and style.
Yeah, kind of like a Firefly or a Clockwork Orange, where they. And I also like that he just basically, went ahead of himself and went, film noir, basically adventure game, because you've got voiceovers, and,
Right. Yeah, and that's very true. Tex Murphy certainly did it. And I like the bit where he told you to keep it in your pants, good sir.
Let's not go there. Also, Blade Runner did the voiceover thing. Even Broken Sword did the voiceover thing.
Paris in the springtime.
Which, in movie theory, usually having a voiceover, having copious amounts of voiceover at least, is usually considered a cop-out. It's usually considered, the writer of the scripts didn't have the forthwith thought, is that even a word, to, convey emotions and motivations and such by, simply showing it on screen. He had to have a fucking voiceover, so...
And Gabriel Knight had Virginia Capers.
Don't go there. I'm warning you, seriously.
Voiceover echoes back to the old epic poems, though, doesn't it? Where you've got the action going on, but it's the narrator that's telling you the story.
Oh God, can you imagine Virginia Capers reading Gilgamesh? I've never read Gilgamesh, so I'll have to spare you.
I actually have. It's a good one. It's a little, it's a little out there, but. But anyway, whoa, wait. I think homework
wants to talk
for next week. Yes. So please pipe down, everyone. Homework for next week is that we actually all go off and watch Brick, and then we'll come back and see if it's any good.
Agreed. This is going to be the we have a story arc going here. Gareth trolls and Fred decipher voicemails and have to admit that they don't actually know what their fans are talking about.
Fans? Okay, let's go.
He said he'd been enjoying. He said he'd been enjoying the show since day one. I mean, I have
just stroking our egos.
I haven't even been enjoying this show since day one.
No, and you're a part of. No, me neither. I'm just basically here because drinks.
Because now we can't stop doing it. So anyway,
and flesh movies.
Thank you so much, Tomar, for for your thoughts.
Tomar.
Yeah. Mazel tov. Anyway, let's move on to the actual subject of this week: shitty puzzles in otherwise good games. Now, Trolls, before we started recording, you mentioned that you didn't have any examples. Have you come closer to anything now that you want to bring up?
No, see, my problem is that I can think of a number of puzzles that I don't like, but I'm having a hard time objectively going, this puzzle sucks and it should suck to everyone. Instead of just going, it sucks in my subjective view. I mean, like we mentioned, I don't like timer puzzles. I don't like mazes. I don't like. Actually, mazes might bring up one thing. I haven't actually played it, but I do know for a fact that there's a maze in Shadow of the Comet.
That's a 21st century internet thriller. The Shadow of the Comet.
Shadow of the Comet.
Never
the return of the SJW. There's amazing
in this country. The House of Commons is
overcome by a
shadow.
No, there's an amazing Shadow of the Comet, the Lovecraft game, where if you run up against a dead end, it will teleport you randomly to another part of the maze, so you can't actually map out what you're supposed to do. That's terrible design, and the entire maze is technically a puzzle, so I can go there. But by and large, I'm actually having trouble conjuring up, like a set in stone example of a puzzle that should be universally reviled.
I can actually bring you one on a silver plate, which is one that I just thought of before we started recording, which is King's Quest V. You have a grand machine which recharges magic wands, and this is not a euphemism. It recharges actual magic wands.
Does it splurge?
And what does this thing run on, gentlemen? It runs on dairy. It runs on a dairy product. More specifically, it runs on cheese. So the way to activate this device is to take a piece of cheese, put it in there, and put your magic. I think it's kind of like a thing with scales, like a weight. So you put a magic wand on one scale, and you put a slice of whatever cheese you have handy. Cheddar may work on the other scale. Slice of good Limburger or something. And then the thing powers up, and it's this beautiful VGA color cycling, and your magic wand is now recharged. Now, Roberta Williams, I have one question for you. Actually, it's more of a medical advice, really. Whatever you were smoking, I hope to fucking God you are off it.
I think I understand where this came from, actually. Because sweet dreams are made of cheese, and who am I to disagree?
Oh, fuck off.
Get out.
You, sir, are no longer a part of these.
But yeah, I mean, surely you guys can agree. I mean,
yeah, that is objectively awful.
Can you come up with any kind of logic? The only logic that I can apply to this is, shit, the player has a piece of cheese in his inventory. We don't know what to do with it. Do we have anywhere where we can apply the cheese? Well, we've got the magic wand recharging machine. That'll work, Greg. That'll work.
That's not how you design a puzzle. You don't just go, I have an inventory item
As
now.
if
We should probably
Roberta
use it for something.
fucking Williams ever knew how to design a puzzle.
Although, I mean, I suppose the fish in Space Quest 6 was kind of taking the piss out of that mechanic.
It was, yeah. Because the fish is a recurring inventory item. Every time you lose it, you get it back, which is also a callback to the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text adventure that we mentioned in the previous episode.
Lovely gag, actually. I love that gag, and the way it's voiced is excellent. I think it's justifiable based on that. I mean, sure, as a puzzle, it's kind of a non sequitur, but I don't know. As a gag, it really works. Will you please stop rambling about the way I try to speak English?
It's Latin, you cunt.
Too fucking shay.
Well, English is a Latin language. No, it isn't. It's Germanic. Anyway.
It's like hashtag third language.
Sorry, that was overly hard.
I don't know. Yeah, that's probably.
No, that was good.
Yeah, that's probably. It's not even my mother tongue. It's like my great grand uncle tongue.
Let's not get into what your mother's tongue does.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think the fish gag is justifiable based on that. Also, Space Quest 6 is a comedy game, and King's Quest 5 isn't. Well, it's laughably awful, but that doesn't count as knowingly being a comedy game.
Well, no. I disagree. There are moments of comedy games. Because what you just said means that basically comedy games can get away with anything because then it's a comedy game. Ha ha. Please laugh at this in retrospect. No. I mean, I do agree with people that say that the monkey wrench puzzle in Monkey Island 2 was not just a bit unfair, but also quite stupid. I mean, it's a funny joke in retrospect. Ha ha, you've got a monkey in your inventory and you need a monkey wrench. Why don't I just use this? It doesn't work, on a logical scale, and it doesn't work in the context of a puzzle design. I'm going to give it a free pass because everything else around the game is just flat out awesome.
Yeah.
I suppose that it's another thing. It brings up an idea that I think is another thing to add to the list of bad puzzles, which is the ones where it doesn't seem like there's any kind of logic to it, and you get to a point in a game sometimes where you're stuck, and especially since we've moved on from the parser where you need to know exactly what to type in, where you just go to inventory and start trying to mix every single thing that I possibly can. And then when some random things come together, you go, oh, okay, well, I suppose they're linked for some reason. And then you find out what the answer to the puzzle is, and you go, okay, there is no way I would have worked that out through any feedback that I'm getting from the game.
And the trouble is that you often wind up just trying to click everything on everything else, and there is no rewarding feeling when you happen to stumble upon, well, this was the inventory item I was supposed to combine with this. I was supposed to combine the piece of cheese with the wand machine. There's no payoff. It's just, well, I did something to progress, but I've been stuck here for 10 minutes, and now I really hate this game's fucking ass.
I know that's actually one of those what do you call it? It's one of those when you solve a puzzle,
I thought it was
sort of retrospectively.
I thought it was going to be non sequitur.
No, non-sequential. Should we just switch to Danish or no?
Yeah, we might as well.
You can do if you want. Just don't expect any input from me.
We never do.
Den gåde, jeg tænker på, det er selvfølgelig fra en af mine yndlingscomputerspil i hele verden. What the hell am I saying?
Yeah.
It's a spiel. That's definitely a computer game.
Yes, it is. No,
basically German.
I'm actually going to throw one of my own favorite games under the bus here. And that is Beneath the Steel Sky. This just popped into my head just a second ago.
No.
Yes, I am, because there is one awful puzzle in that game, and it is when you have to fashion a grappling hook to get into the security offices. And the game does not tell you that this is what you're supposed to do. It's more of a I'm not giving you a clear goal as to what you're supposed to do to progress in the story. What you have to do is combine a rope with an anchor that you sawed off a statue, and you don't know why you sawed it off the statue. You just instinctively have to know to combine these objects, then go up to the roof and then chuck the makeshift grappling hook at the security symbol, and then swing on it, and then you enter the security offices and you can go into the link space and whatever. It's not a shit puzzle per se, but it is a shit puzzle in this context because the game doesn't tell you that's what you're expected to do. It doesn't go, you have to get into the security offices. It just leans back and goes, well, I just hope he tries something.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about those kind of puzzles where you're kind of. I mean, we said shit puzzles in otherwise good games. I think Space Quest 6 maybe stretches the definition of good game. I mean, there are elements of it that are very good.
That's not nice towards poor Josh Mandel.
No, well,
we even had him on the show.
Yeah, there are elements of it that I like very much, and there are a lot of good set pieces in it. But as a game holding together, I love it because I grew up with it. But we're supposed to be wizened, old, cynical reviewers.
We're also supposed to keep our friends.
That's a good.
No. But seriously, he does have a point. Space Quest 6 has its flaws, and it's not Josh Mandel's fault. It's not Scott Murphy's fault either. It's the fault of the faceless corporate management of Sierra.
I'm gonna blame that one on Roberta Williams as well.
Yeah. Space Quest 6's strengths are despite everything that was going on. This wasn't meant to be a rant at Space Quest 6, and Josh, if you want, I will lick your bald head, because I know you like that sort
or balls.
I thought you were going to say something completely different.
Yeah. Do make your point, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult now. But there's a sort of an inventory combining puzzle in that when you get into there's a point in the game where you find yourself behind bars. And although it's kind of made out that you're going to have to distract the short-sighted guard or make him think that something's going on, it's never really clear that you're supposed to put all the bits of the food together to make a person. And actually, with the way the game's coded, you have to merge those items in the right order to be able to get it to do anything. So you end up going, even if you manage to work out, I'm supposed to do something with the food, I'm supposed to make something from the food, you have to do it in such a specific order that basically you're just mashing buttons trying to sort of force it into some kind of thing.
Exactly. You're stuck in one location, and the only other thing you have is that at one point he brings you this food cart, and you pick up all the items off the food cart, and you go, okay, I can see arms, I can see a head, I can see legs, I can see whatever.
I am going to build an effigy to Cthulhu.
Exactly. I'm going to build something. And then the game will only, as Gareth say, accept combinations in a certain order. Furthermore, if you try something out of order, it won't give you a no, that doesn't go there quite yet, or something constructive. It'll just go, it'll just, throw a generic lying at you. Just go, no, that does not work at all. You should do something entirely different. No, I'm doing something right now.
And that's kind of odd in a game which has so much focus on different interactions. I mean, Josh really wrote a lot of different interactions, so I can only guess that part of this was done without his input, because he likes giving meaningful feedback.
Yeah, to the extreme, actually.
To the extreme, but it's a very nice extreme, and I personally love that kind of writing.
I was talking to Rich Jacob for the Space Quest Historian podcast season 3 coming up next month.
Fuck you!
He actually referred to this as Mendelian design. It now has a phrase. It now has a connotation.
Well, that sounds kind of like an Ed Wood movie. The shock and terror. Where were these beings from? Find out in the Mendelian design. It sounds like a really old Star Trek episode.
So what do we consider like? Okay, let's just pull the curtain back and just go. Let's not focus on.
We're not going to talk about
like,
your dick.
No, I'm not going to talk about the flesh noodle. I'm just going to go. Let's not talk about specific games. Let's just talk about puzzles that are objectively shit. I mean, stuff that you should not put into games. And again, I don't mean like sliding tile puzzles, which are puzzles, and they do, have their place.
And some do, and let's not forget that we do, of course, have a bias on this show, and that's not something we shy away from. But there are people out there who do enjoy logic puzzles, and
exactly.
Peace to those people, certainly.
There are people in this very episode that have written games that have sliding tile puzzle episodes, aren't there, Fred?
Yes, and you should go download. No, I'm not going to do that again. But yeah, I can't remember where that came from. But to be fair, it reveals an Easter egg. It has no story-wise, it has no purpose, so it's entirely optional. And I mean, I for one, don't really mind that kind of shit if it's optional. That's why I relish the fact that the Tex Murphy games had entertainment and gamer modes. So you could actually skip the puzzles that they might have known would not be everyone's cup of tea.
Well, I one of the puzzles that I really, because having started to be a co-host on this particular podcast, one of the things that I realised was that actually I don't remember half the games I played when I was a kid. So I've spent quite a few, just a couple of quid, just sort of acquiring games on GOG and Steam, and just sort of getting back into them. And one of the ones that I played recently was Pandora Directive, which is one of the Tex Murphy games. It's a great game. Love the story. Love the way that it was kind of put together. And it was one of those games that I just wanted to sit down each evening and play through, because I wanted to see where the story went. I wanted to see what happened to the characters.
It's like a really good book that you just can't put down. It's a page turner.
And
a really
it
good
is
book.
Will you shut the fuck up already?
I'm supposed to be drunk.
It's something to do with Brooke Shields or Brooke.
No,
I said book.
Anyway,
never mind.
The point being that there's quite a lot of logic puzzles in that game, and I wasn't too bothered, because a lot of those logic puzzles were actually quite cleverly inserted into a position where you go, okay, I know I'm playing a computer game, I know I'm playing a game that needs the puzzles, because the puzzles are what turn it into a sort of like a more in-depth game. But each of them seem to make sense. Like there's one, most of the logic puzzles revolve around having to open up these boxes that have been deliberately sort of locked with a logic puzzle, so that you can only get in.
Most things with a lock tend to be deliberately locked.
No, but I know what he's saying. I mean, these are puzzle boxes, and the game explicitly defined them as puzzle boxes.
Yeah, and they were deliberately done that way from a guy that has spent his entire career needing to keep his work secret, and his work is within the boxes. That's the kind of the conceit. And most of them kind of make sense, but there's one which involves having to work out that this box needs you to put these balls onto the box in the right order.
I'm so sorry.
And the way that you
trigger word.
Trigger warning. The way that you work that out is that the way that you work out the order that you're supposed to put them in. Well, first of all, you only work this out by combining random things together in your inventory to work out that a flight itinerary has something to do with the box itself, which you don't really get a clue from the dialogue, or at least I didn't get a clue from the dialogue. I got completely stuck and had to look this up. And then you have these balls that you have to place in the right positions, but based on the flight itinerary. But the flight itinerary based on a world map doesn't actually directly match up to the way that you put the balls on the thing. So actually the balls on the thing is based on the angles of the flight more than it is on the actual map of what you're supposed to do. It's very difficult to explain if you haven't actually played the game. Hopefully enough of you have, or at least get my frustration that it doesn't kind of work. And I had that was the one puzzle that I had to look up every single. Okay, walk me through this step by step, because I do not understand what the hell is going on.
Every time I got to any of the logic puzzles in Pandora Directive, in fact, I just went for the hint system. They've got these 4-digit cheat codes that you can put in, and they just skip them. I am not bothered with this shit.
I do the same. I usually go for entertainment mode, not because there is something enjoyable to me about cracking a logic puzzle. I mean, I did enjoy solving the sliding tile puzzle in Fran Bow, because I'm not very used to it, so there's a great feeling of reward for me when I do it. But I do think they break the flow, and if I can skip one, I will do it. I'm not that much into that type of rule playing.
Well, I quite enjoyed those puzzles, and that with all of the other ones, I could at least work out what I was supposed to do, even if I didn't know how to actually put that into practice, which is basically the story of my entire career. But there were a couple, but that was the one where I couldn't even work out how I was supposed to work it out. With all the other ones where you have to like move the balls.
Isn't that a song? Isn't that a song by the Who or something?
It's probably.
Oh, there's a certain similarity to puzzles in the 11th Hour by Trilobite. The sequel to the 7th Guest, full title: The 11th Hour, the sequel to the 7th Guest.
Well, that's great because you know what you're getting.
Yes, where half of the puzzles actually start out in an unwinnable state, and you have to sit there and reset the puzzle until it morphs itself into a winnable state. Now that's just bad design to me. I mean, the entire thing is just one logic puzzle after another, and then you have this little AI game with the CPU and whatever. But starting a puzzle out in an unwinnable state, that's just tickling the balls of someone who just nutted. I mean,
it's mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be mean.
Don't be mean. And one other thing that I thought of was, even though I haven't played it, this puzzle is infamous, is the original Rumpelstiltskin puzzle from King's Quest, which completely sidestepped any logic and
of course any similarity to the source material, because there was a Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale, which was based on the premise that you had to guess his name.
Oh yeah, but the way it's set up in King's Quest, for those of you who have been living under a rock for the past 25 years.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't played it, count yourself amongst those fortunate and don't play it. It's not good. It's not as good as people say it is.
No, they actually amended this puzzle because the original game tells you to do the name backwards. Just type the name in backwards. But oh no, that's not what you actually do.
The wording is actually sometimes it's wise to think backwards.
Yeah, and that's the only hint you're given. Actually, this means, completely fucking up the alphabet and putting everything in the wrong order and then typing in something that doesn't even phonetically make any goddamn sense whatsoever. Future versions of King's Quest do let you just type in Rumpelstiltskin backwards, and that will actually produce the desired result. But that is just so left field, and it's just so kind of a please call our hint line kind of thing.
And it's kind of weird because something that and they could have solved this easily, because something that King's Quest 1 was very good at. Credit where credit is. You can have my ass for that one. I said credit. I'm apparently a frog now.
I'm hunting credit.
Let me be very, very quiet. I'm hunting credits. Well, credit where credit is due. Yay. The game was great at giving you alternative options for solving puzzles. And it kind of bothers me that they were able to do that in so many cases, but they didn't sidestep to consider that maybe we should accept Rumpelstiltskin, maybe we should accept Rumpelstiltskin backwards, and maybe we should accept Roberta's insane puzzle solution because Ken is boinking her.
Accept Rumpelstiltskin for lower points than Rumpelstiltskin backwards.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
they do that. They do that a lot.
System.
You can kill the dragon and you'll get points. You'll just get fewer points, or you can douse it in water so it can't harm you because it can't breathe fire. To me, it's obvious that this is what they should have done. But here we are talking about it more than 30 years later.
Exactly.
I think what I got from that conversation was this idea of messing up the alphabet and coming up with something that makes no phonetic sense. I mean, was it Danish?
It might be Danish.
That was Dutch, or maybe Finnish. Finnish makes no goddamn sense whatsoever.
Or maybe it was just the Brum dialect.
What you got against Brummies? Salt of the earth we are.
Let's think of
Shut
I know I started out asking about, just generic puzzles that, make no goddamn sense, and we should stop putting them into games. I think what I'm taking away from this is that, personal preference is is one thing. I mean, we don't like sliding tile puzzles. We don't like
we don't seem
door
to.
puzzles.
Well, the two of us don't seem to enjoy puzzles in general. What I'm gathering is that Gareth likes them when the rules are clear.
Oh, well, I mean, it was just in those games, in the Tex Murphy games, or at least in the Tex Murphy games I've played, apart from the very end of Tesla Effect, a lot of those logic puzzles kind of made sense within the context of what they were doing, and I enjoyed going, oh, you know what, I'm just going to accept this and run with it.
I'm actually happy you brought up Tesla Effect, because that final puzzle is a great example of something that goes completely wrong. I mean, what the fuck are you supposed to do? You're supposed to, and you better get the soundboard ready, because you're supposed to fiddle with knobs. Thank you.
But
there is absolutely no logic to what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I had no problem with that puzzle at all. I was just surprised that would. Well, I can understand that puzzle being in there. I was completely and utterly dumbfounded that that's the final thing that you do. That's an Act 2 puzzle with very little jeopardy. That's not the end of the world, the end of the game, save the world kind of puzzle to me. No. Different puzzles have different places at different times, but I think your game-ending, boss-defeating coup de grace should not be random fiddling with knobs, because there's no logic to it. You've just got to make sure that you get everything into the right order in time. Well, that's something to do earlier on. That's not something to end the game with. That was the problem I had with that puzzle.
And that is, in fact, I'm pretty sure it's also something you do early on in the game. You know, it's a vast game, so of course there'll be similar logic puzzles to this. So
actually, there isn't. That is it throws this puzzle at you, just out of left field, and you're just stuck with this close up of these knobs that you have to sit there and twiddle, and then eventually you'll get there, or you'll punch in the cheat code, which is what I did, and then the FMV runs, plays, and then you've won the game. Hurrah!
But it's explained to you how to do it earlier on from stuff that you get elsewhere, and I can completely get that. But I mean, it might be one of the problems with the game in itself, in that the first half of the game is infinitely stronger than the last half in a number of ways. But I don't know. It just seems to me that one of the things about a computer, maybe this is just something that we've been conditioned to believe, and we should move away from it. But I've always thought that the puzzles earlier on in the game should set the logic for the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like tutorial puzzles, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And then as the game progresses, the puzzles get harder, not in terms of more obscure, but just require a little bit more thought about, okay, how am I supposed to do this? And they might require you to spend a little bit more time investigating the environment before you can work out what you're supposed to do.
That's a very good design. That's a very good design paradigm, I think. You're learning with the game. But in some adventure games, of course, you're just flung in there, and that is less enjoyable. To me, I agree with you completely.
Which is an I was going to say exciting.
Oh, I get this one. Which is an egg? Hello, no, I'm the Space Quest Egg-storian.
Oh, piss
you
off,
done?
Cunts.
Well, guilty as charged. Move on.
Yeah, because one thing that I brought up before we started recording, and then Fred went in and said, actually, this is quite fair, is the writing on the wall with the brick in Gabriel Knights. And I started out going, well, I had no idea what the hell to write. I thought this was a major leap in difficulty. It wasn't a gradual sort of nudging you towards. I was stuck on that shit for days.
I loved it because I was so proud of it. Because I was stuck on it too, and you will get stuck. But I was so proud that when I figured out that DJ is probably not a disc jockey playing fat beatsies at the ceremony. It's probably Dr. John at the Voodoo Museum. So you gotta summon Dr. John. You gotta tell him there's a conclave tonight. That's in the original message. You gotta tell them where. Well, that's at the swamp, because you've got access to that. And you gotta tell them what to bring. They could bring the coffin that I put the wiretap in, and that happens to be called the Sekhe Module. Hey, I can write that with this internal alphabet. Let's write Sekhe Module. There is really, and it's so great when Sierra games do this little thing when they play a cutscene, the cursor disappears and you hear a point chime and Virginia Caber says something for about 10 minutes. There's just this great this great relief that I worked this out, I'm progressing and I'm gonna infiltrate this motherfucker. For that reason I love that puzzle.
And I am going to say that you're absolutely right, and I was wrong because in retrospect that is just
we got the recording of this.
I know, yes, I know, because in hindsight it's just me and my observational skills not being up to par. I thought when I played the game for the first time that was a major leap.
Observation.
Yeah, you've got
a silver spoon on a chain, a grand
right
piano to prop up my mortal remains.
I lost my train of thought. No, it was such a leap because for the most part up until this point it had been dialogue and simple inventory item puzzles, and then all of a sudden you have to decode this thing. But if you'd taken the time to look at the message that was written on the wall before you erased it and replaced it with your own, you would have gotten the syntax that you were expected to put in.
He's rapping now.
That's not unfair. Yes, I am.
Erased it and replaced it.
I am dropping fat beatsies all over the place.
Right up in your motherfucking ass.
So yes, I was wrong to condemn that puzzle as being unfair and shit. It actually isn't. I'm just a dumbass.
But I can see why you think it poses a leap in difficulty, because I'll give you that. While I love the Sherlocking or cunt bubbling, as it were, that's going on in this puzzle.
It's very sweary.
I'm a bit sweary. Well, it's not really something you do in the game earlier up until that point, that kind of detective work. There are puzzles which constitute some form of detective work, but this is much more complex than what you've had before.
Yeah, because you've got the drum circle book thing.
Now that's one thing I didn't like actually.
Actually, that thing made more sense to me because you've got this manual and you've got all of these commands at your fingertips. You don't have to figure out the syntax to put it in. You just have to hit the right things, and then Dr. John shows up and bashes your head against the wall. Kind of thing.
Well, maybe I like that bit of the puzzle. What I didn't like was eavesdropping on the drums and trying to decipher the patterns, because they kind of shift around and there is some noise in there that makes no sense as far as I remember.
But you don't have to. You don't have to decipher anything. You get a book that basically tells you every drum beat that you can play. I
thought you had to decipher it early on in the game to intercept the messages that they.
No. You get.
I know you get
an encyclopedia.
I know you get the book at the tail end, but I just thought that you do have to intercept where they're holding the conclaves and that they're onto your ass.
Yeah, you're playing this game wrong, I guess.
Yeah, I'm getting the most enjoyment out of, so I'm the one playing it wrong.
Anyway, seeing as our good friend the Doctor is now off to take a massive whiz, how are we doing for time?
I think we're doing pretty well. We should probably begin to wrap this up shortly, because we have some other stuff to record. But
hello, Robert.
This was a very engaging discussion, I thought. If you enjoyed that, you should head on over to our website, backseatdesigners.com. You can subscribe to the show there, get YouTube playlists and what have you. If you enjoyed it to such a degree that you feel like throwing money at us, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but we're not going to stop you, and you should head on over to patreon.com/backseatdesigners and fling money at us. And
Hello, Michael Council.
Yeah, hello, Mike. Thank you. How are you doing? I have to call you a cunt because you don't like being thanked, so a cunt. Anyway, when you regret making that decision, which you will, head on over to Twitter and find us at BS Designers and bitch and moan to us. But the secret is that we won't actually care, because
yes, we will. Yes, I will. He won't, but I will.
Yeah, I try to reply whenever I can.
Well, I don't care about people bitching that they threw money at us because I got an extra pizza this month because of Patreon money.
Nice.
And that's
You actually bought a pizza with that money, did you?
No, I think I might have bought some beer among other things. I probably bought toilet paper.
See, guys, your money goes exactly to the point where you want it to go. It pays for amenities. It pays for server costs.
In all
it pays
fairness,
for content creation. It pays for I'm going somewhere that I don't know. Anyway, it does not go to pizza and beer.
Did you say cunts and creation? Content creation. Anyway, that's of course not taking all the cocaine into account.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say something then, because I've got a little bit of splashback from this Patreon thing too.
You also just
went for a wee, didn't you?
Yeah, you got piss on your shoes.
I did. I just went for a wee. But yeah. No, I wanted to say I haven't played as many adventure games, or at least I did play quite a lot when I was younger. I just can't remember any of them. So I want to put it out to the listeners and everybody else. Tweet me at MillyQED. What should I spend my Patreon money on? What adventure games do you think that I should be playing and that I should spend that money on? And therefore, I will become a better co-host.
That's a very good idea.
That's a good
Also be it.
Unfortunately, there's no way to make Trolls and I into better co-hosts.
Oh no! That ship has sailed. like 1.5 seasons ago.
But yeah, of course, one last thing. If you like our dear friend whose name I will leave Trolls to pronounce.
Benedict Cuntbubble?
No, the guy who sent in a voicemail.
Oh, Benedict Cumberbottle.
Yes. If you want to send in a voicemail like Mr. You can hit us up at Fred@Backseat Designers and send us any content that you want either played back or read on the show.
Stop pronouncing it like that, please. I mean, every time you say content, I just imagine it with a U.
Well, it's a sort of a Freudian slip, I guess. Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. Say goodbye, Trolls.
Can't bubble.
Say goodbye, Trolls.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye, Gareth.
Goodbye.
And it's a cunt goodbye from me as well. We'll see you next week.
Oh, well done.
No more for today.